Forever. Dog.
People who do comedy understand drama in a way because when we perform, we get an immediate response, which is if it's not funny, people don't laugh. You know, but when you do drama, you just kind of like trust that it's working. So, I mean, I think comics or people in comedy, we're trained to tell the truth. Like, we have to tell the truth. Otherwise, we don't get a laugh.
Hello and welcome to Household Faces, the podcast where a character actor interviews other character actors. I'm your host, John Ross Bowie. You might know me from Speechless or The Big Bang Theory or several episodes of Episodes. You heard me, several episodes of Episodes. The Matt LeBlanc show on Showtime a couple years ago. I played a psychiatrist. I did 5 episodes, but we shot them all in one day, which is a great way to get a recurring gig, by the way. 5 episodes and you're wrapped by dinner. Sweet move. I was also in London for that, which was fun because it was my 42nd birthday, and I celebrated turning 42 by going to the graveyard of Douglas Adams. If you know, you know. Our guest is Suzy Nakamura. Suzy and I have kind of known each other for years. We have a bunch of mutual friends, as we'll talk about. I know a lot of people who are sort of from Chicago, but she's actually from Chicago, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. We talk about her run on Broadway right now, where she is doing the farce POTUS. She also is in the new season of Dead to Me, the new season of Avenue 5. She did West Wing. She did a bunch of Second City, Dr. Ken, Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's a wonderful, diverse career where she has bounced around from comedy to drama. We talk about how trauma and grief fuels comedy. It's a really, really fun conversation that begins with her essentially accusing me of pandering by wearing this shirt with Toshiro Mifune on it. Just a coincidence. I'm just a guy who wears Toshiro Mifune shirts from time to time. Just who I am. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Suzy Nakamura.
Did you wear that shirt for me?
I did not. No, I just happened to have... No, that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair question. I have several Akira Kurosawa shirts, I'm pleased to report. This just happens to be the one I grabbed this morning. Shit. No, that's not...
I'm just giving you shit. I'm giving you shit.
No, I didn't. That's okay. That's fair. Are we keeping this? Let's keep this. Let's keep this moment here. I am wearing my Yojimbo shirt. No, I'll tell you what. I wear this shirt when I'm feeling shitty about my career because I'm in a lull or whatever. And because I like to think of myself as a Ronin, just going from town to town, and whoever needs my sword, I'm just for hire.
That's a great analogy.
It gets me through some rough patches, Suzy. I'm not going to lie to you. It gets me through some rough patches.
Yeah. But here's the thing, like, when we're unemployed, we need that reset. We need that reset. We cannot sustain this schedule for long periods of time.
Well,
you know,
you mean the...
I mean, we're independent. We're independent contractors, so we obviously go from job to job. But I mean, we work like ridiculous hours. We don't have time to open our mail, and our heads are filled with words, so we don't have time to think about stuff. We need long breaks between jobs. It's necessary.
I hear you. I am now entering the point where I'm all set. My break was great. I am all set to get back there. I appreciated the break. I love a couple months of unemployment.
Okay.
And then we get to a point where the scaries kick in. I'm fine. This isn't a cry for help. I'm fine. I'd like to be back on set. I like the smell of carpentry and fresh paint and all the things you get when you're on a TV set. Smell of grease paint, roar of the crowd, that kind of thing. You feel me. Let me talk.
I do.
Let's start for a moment. First of all, Suzy Nakamura, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad
you were having me.
I know you've got I know you're doing an 8-show-a-week Broadway schedule right now, and that's very hectic. So I really appreciate you taking time on your day off.
I love talking about character actors, I have to tell you.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm you're in the right place. Why don't we just start with POTUS? Why don't we talk about the play you're doing? You're doing like it sounds, I've not seen it, but it sounds like kind of an old school farce, but set in a modern White House.
Correct. And it is the first all-female farce, to my knowledge, ever produced.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Definitely ever produced on Broadway. And as a woman, and as a woman in comedy, number one, finally, and number two, it's just been an absolute blast. It's been so fun to be able to swear and slam doors and crawl on the ground and get bruises on our legs from running into tables. And I've always been jealous of the guys because, especially in farces, we're always like the girlfriends or the dits. And the fact that it's 7 women just fucking running around and punching each other just makes me eternally happy.
That's really true. Even like the best farces, there's, the one woman is kind of a bimbo and she's sort of a pawn in somebody else's game. And here
Correct.
you are 7 chess masters up there. And the cast is bonkers. It's you, it's Julie White, it's Rachel Dratch, it's these giants on stage all the time. What had you done Broadway before?
No,
I didn't.
No.
I think so.
I did theater in Chicago, and then I
Right.
did like television in Los Angeles, and I actually auditioned for a show at Lincoln Center, and this show literally fell in my lap.
What was the show
Like
you
the
auditioned
offer came
for at Lincoln Center?
It hasn't opened yet,
Okay.
so I don't know if I want to say.
Fair enough. But so it was, you auditioned for that, didn't get it, but then they heard about you at POTUS?
Actually, Julie White threw my name in the hat.
That's awesome.
So Susan Stroman cast me, and
Susan Stroman, who's legendary Broadway director, did the producers, tons of stuff. He works predominantly in musicals, I feel like. Doesn't do a ton of straight plays.
Yeah, well, she was a choreographer, but I felt like she was the perfect director for this because it's all about pace and rhythm, and
farce has to be choreographed or people get hurt.
Correct. In fact, there was a table that was 6 inches too far to the right, and I ran into it because of that. And Julianne Hough was right behind me, and she ran into it too.
Oh my God!
And we're running. There's one change. We're running full speed to get to stage right, and I'm fine. But
was it?
What is that bruise gel? Arnica gel.
Arnica gel. Yeah,
We
is
use
that
a lot
helping?
of that.
Oh, really?
We use a lot of that in the show.
It kind of sounds like you're on a punk tour, frankly. But what did it happen? You said you were doing a quick change. Would it happen on stage that you ran into something?
No. It happened backstage.
How does someone with your improv background, or I think I'm answering my own question here. Does having an improv background help if you fuck up during something like that? If you fuck up on stage?
I think so, only because I think everyone is capable of covering, especially in an ensemble, like ensemble acting, like our whole focus is making the other performers look good. So if there's an instinct to sort of like just jump in, fill the silence, help, cover, all that stuff. And, in a cast of 6 or 7, if everyone is doing that, that just elevates the entire production. It elevates the performances. It elevates the text, everything. And I think everyone's capable of doing that, but I think my improv experience prevents me from panicking.
Right.
That's the only edge I have.
Everyone's filling in, but you're the only one who's keeping it cool. You and Rachel probably are the two who are keeping super cool heads when shit goes down.
Well, I feel like everyone's done it. We've only done maybe like 30 performances right now, up to this date. And there, it's the live theater. It's not necessarily because it's a farce. It's because it's live theater.
Right.
Like things can happen. It can be a performer. It can be a prop. It can be the set. It can be anything. And as long as you know who you are and where you are and the character, I think any actor is capable of covering. But I think there's that initial panic of like, what do I do? There was one like prop problem. Oh, there was a late entrance because of a quick change. And I forgot who covered, but I think I just started talking. But then when we got off stage, everyone said, well, I was about to say this. I was about to say this. I was about to say that. All of that would have covered. Like we all had something in our back pocket ready to go. We could have gone for 10 minutes.
Oh, that's nice to hear. That's got to be really soothing.
Yeah.
What a safe place to be working, especially for a Broadway debut. We're talking about improv anyway. You're from Chicago.
Yes, born and raised.
In the city of Chicago.
In the city of Chicago.
Now, you know why I'm splitting hairs about this, right? Because I'm from New York, and I know millions of people from Chicago, and about 3 of them are actually from Chicago.
Yeah.
I
rarely meet another person. This is how you tell when they say they're from Chicago. I go, what high school did you go to? And if they say Niles, if they say Oak Park, River Forest, or Niles, or anything of that, I'm like, okay, well, I have nothing to say to you.
Yeah.
We can't talk about anything.
Okay, well, you're living in New York right now. So what is Chicago's Westchester County? Because that's the big fake out that we always get in New York. Like, oh, I'm from New York. Like, oh, no kidding. Where'd you go to high school? Like, Bedford. I'm like, nope, that's not the 5 boroughs, is it? No, it is not. You're a liar face. So what is Chicago's?
It would probably be, I would say Niles.
Niles, okay. I got a lot of people from
or Des Plaines.
Des Plaines. Even I've heard of Des Plaines. Okay, yeah, sure. I had a manager from Downers Grove for a while, and it was years before he fessed up. It was like, not Chicago proper, like Downers Grove. So
sounds like a joke.
So you grow up in Chicago, which is the second largest theater town in the United States. And I say that with my chest. I say that with full authority. It's absolutely the second. It is, in terms of the volume of theaters and how seriously theater is taken, it is second only to New York. Was it always an option for you? Did you ever think about doing anything else besides act?
I didn't know acting was a job, but I knew that I liked it. But I was sort of set to do something else. I didn't know what it was. So I was really good at math. I know that I'm undoing decades of progress about representation by saying that. But I was really good at math.
There's no shame.
And I played the piano. So those were my options.
I've got like 6 jokes on deck, and I'm not going to touch a single one of them. Not a one.
We do exist. I didn't know. I think I didn't know what to do with math, so I thought I'd have to be a CPA, or so. I had a cousin that was a CPA, so I just thought, like, all right, I'll do that. My dad wanted me to be in the, market somehow, like the stock market or futures, because Chicago is also the home of the Board of Trade and the Mercantile Exchange.
Oh, right. But your parents were teachers, right?
My dad was a teacher and my mom was a nurse.
Oh, okay.
And my brother worked at the Board of Trade, so that was sort of like...
I see. Oh, interesting. Older brother?
My older... older brother.
Okay.
So I did it. Okay, so I think I did a play in grade school. And then I did like musicals in high school. And then I joined a theater company right out of high school. And I started doing plays right out of high school, but I still didn't know it was a job. I thought it was something that you did on the weekends and at night. I started doing improv at bars and in the basement of the Midwest Buddhist Temple. Not a joke.
That's fantastic. Wow. Wait, hang on. Okay. No. Yeah. I love how you think we're going to blow past that. What is it? How do you get, who books the Midwest Buddhist Temple's basement? That's my question. Who looks at that space and goes, improv?
There was a director, producer, performer named Greg Nishimura, and he booked. He worked with a lot of Second City people.
Yeah, I know that name.
And he's old school, but he worked with a bunch of. He was always doing live shows.
Okay.
At either like Cross Currents or. He would just find a space. And the first show I did with him was the first show that I got paid, which was really exciting. I think I got paid $35 a week.
Yeah, but when you're like
a show on
19
Thursday,
or
Friday,
20,
and Saturday.
That's like,
No, I was 17.
oh, that's found money, though. You must have felt like, oh
I
my
know.
God, there's no looking back.
I really thought that I had made it at that point because I had done a play and not paid. I did a play at Chicago Dramatists and never got paid anything. So I was like, all right, here we go. This is the upward trajectory that I'm looking for.
This is like a massive, like something like a 3,500% increase in pay right there.
Yes. Yeah. I really got a bump. And Greg used to produce these sketch shows with improv in it, very like the format of Second City. And the show that we did at the Midwest Buddhist Temple was, again, this is in the 80s. I think it was called Sushi, Burgers, and Other Tidbits or something like that.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Well, it was speaking to, I'm assuming it was speaking to the multiculturalism of the cast?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't, it's one of the, I mean, you prefaced it by saying it's the 80s. I don't know that that's necessarily verboten in 2022. I think you might be able to get away with a title like that in 2022.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Hard to say.
Yeah.
So
it's a little on the nose.
What do you, how do you end up at Second City? How do you end up moving and founding Second City Detroit, which I knew you were a part of that. I didn't realize you were one of the founders.
I wasn't one of the founders. I just was in the original cast.
Fake news. I don't know where I read that, but somewhere said you were a founder of Second City Detroit.
Probably the internet.
Oh, the internet, man. So are you telling me all that vaccine information isn't true either? Shit.
Oh, John, we need to talk.
All right. So you end up at Second City in Chicago. You must have been aware of them. I mean, people go, like, proms go to Second City in Chicago. It's like a thing. It's like a rite of passage to visit Second City. So you had to know it was on the, when did you decide, like, oh, this is for me. I want to try this?
Well, I mean, it wasn't on my radar only because I didn't see performing as, like, a job. I got a job at the now defunct Dean Witter Reynolds in their futures division.
Wow. So you did do some time in finance.
Yeah. And I was basically an administrative assistant. And I kind of did like the travel and expense reports for some guys in the corn pit. I think I had guys in the corn, soybeans, and then two pits on the Merc. I forgot which they were. Anyway, and Greg Nishimura said, "Hey, because I was thinking about taking classes, and he said if you go to Second City, you could audition for a scholarship because I had no money. So, and he's the one that said you should go, and I went on my lunch to audition." Thinking, at some point in the future, maybe I'll audition for them, but I just want to know what the audition process is like. And so I went on my lunch and then went back, and then I got called back, and I told Greg Nishimura, and he goes, "Wow, I've never gotten called back." So I got really excited. I went to the callback, and then that was it. It was an interesting process. I had fun, and they made you do a bunch of shit.
Yeah, what is the Second City audition look like in the 90s? What is that? How does that go?
I know we did scene stuff, like we did 6 people at a time in a group scene. We did two person scenes. We did. Have you ever heard of 3 Through a Door?
Oh yeah, the Groundlings do that. Sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it's awful.
Do you remember what so it's like you come in as a different character each time, right? That's the premise?
Yes. And I think the premise for, at least when I did it, was that it's an information booth at a mall and you're asking for directions to a store or whatever. So I don't even remember what I did. I just tried to make them as different as possible.
Okay.
And the only thing I remember is I played a really shy girl trying to ask for where the lingerie store was.
That's funny. That's great. That's solid. That's really solid. That's a nice little contrast right there. That's a playable character.
And then I was like, great. If I ever want to audition when I'm an adult, I will know what to expect. And then they hired me. which I could not believe. Because I had to quit my job at Dean Witter. I was in college at the time too, so basically, I thought I could continue college. I thought, I'm going to do shows at night, and I can go to school during the day. But they hired me for the touring company, so I went on the road almost right away.
How do you end up going over to Detroit?
I had been touring for a couple years. I was waiting for a stage, as they say at Second City, which is mean you're waiting to, be cast either at that point. They had a theater in the suburbs called Second City Northwest, and then there was Second City ETC, and then there was the main stage. Right. And when I started, the Second City Northwest was Amy Sedaris, Stephen Colbert,
oh my God,
Paul Dinello, Nia Vardalos. I mean, I in ETC was like Rose Abdu, Ian Gomez, Kenny Campbell. I mean, it was just like I really feel it was like the golden age. And I can't be objective because I was there, but it really was. It was the golden age.
No, that's a dazzling array. But your Detroit cast is no joke either. So they opened up in Detroit and they pulled you over there.
Yes, they wanted one person. They wanted a Detroit cast so that people would come.
Right.
But they needed one. They wanted one Chicago person to sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to say anchor, but to bring some of the Chicago history, I guess.
Well, there's certain stylistic things that you had picked up, I'm sure. But you're in there with like Jerry Minor and what's his face?
Angela Shelton.
Yeah.
Was there.
Who's the big, tall, white guy? His name I can't remember. Ferguson.
Oh, Colin Ferguson.
Colin Ferguson, right, yeah. Who's a sweetheart. I've met him. He's a lovely guy. I don't know why I can't remember his name.
He's such a sweetheart.
He's such a nice guy, yeah. So what brings you out to L.A. and what gets you... So you've got all this massive improv experience and then you end up on West Wing, which is exciting for me as both a West Wing fan and an improv guy because it I'm constantly saying, like, let the comedy people do drama. Don't let the drama people do comedy. But the priority is let the comedy people do drama. They've got a darkness right under the surface. They can get the heavy beats down and they're going to handle the comedic bits. And West Wing has like that sort of snappy Howard Hawks dialogue, but it always gets very serious in its last 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So how do you end up on West Wing?
I just auditioned. I just auditioned. I read the pilot. It was great. I didn't have a lot of experience reading pilots, but I'd read a couple up to that point, and I just thought it sounded like theater.
Yeah.
And I even though I'm an improviser, I was, I grew up just sort of like revering the text. And you can't say those when it says these.
Right.
And that's how that read to me. It was sort of this well-constructed text that had to be word perfect, and it worked. There was a rhythm to it,
Yeah.
And I liked it. I ate it up. But I also feel like people who do comedy understand drama in a way because when we perform, we get an immediate response, which is if it's not funny, people don't laugh.
Right.
But when you do drama, you just kind of like trust that it's working. So, I mean, I think comics or people in comedy, we're trained to tell the truth. Like we have to tell the truth. Otherwise, we don't get a laugh. And I think that.
And if all you do is just take that skill set over to drama. Oh, yes. I've never heard it phrased like that.
I think it transfers well or translates well to drama. It's like we have to tell the truth, otherwise we won't be funny. So in drama, we have to tell the truth. And
then we just have to trust that even though we're not getting a huge laugh, it's still landing. We have to trust those silences.
Yes.
Because that's always the thing that throws me when I go out for. And I had to. The reason I ask how you ended up on West Wing is I have to beg to go out to for hour longs. And I've gotten enough momentum now that I can get in and be seen by them. But for a while there, I was just half-hour guy, and I had to really like put my foot down, like send me out for dramas, send me. I want to double my money, and I want the experience. And I took to it. I think it's really I love the way you can really differentiate from take to take in a way that comedy won't always let you. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I don't want to say comedy in general. I'm specifically TV comedy doesn't let you.
Right. Specifically multicam, but I just feel like,
yes.
When you land a multicam joke, you've landed it. You got it. Don't fuck with it. You've got the rhythm down. It's great. Do it that way 2 or 3 times and let's move on. But drama, there's a couple different ways you can go at something. And you find that's
and you have the luxury of time a little. There's a little bit of there's an unreal time in half-hour comedy, and in 1 hour, that format just allows you to have real beats.
Yeah.
Like that mimics real life, or that at least it's closer to real life.
Even in something as stylized as West Wing, there's still moments of breath and moments where you can kind of like let these beats land.
Yes, and I think it's more up to agents and casting directors to appreciate that people who do comedy can do drama, and we can cite example after example after example, and I don't know what else to say. Like,
no, it's just nice being validated. That's all. We'll go back to comedy now, because right after West Wing, or it probably didn't feel like right after, but you get that great arc on Curb as the assistant manager in the restaurant season. And I love that season. I guess one of the reasons I love that season is because it's a season of Michael York improviser, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Well, let me start right there. What was that like? What's it like working with Michael York, who's been kicking around for like 50 years now, and was predominantly just like a good-looking drama guy in the 70s, but has had this sort of weird second act with Austin Powers and Curb. Was he game to play along? I mean, he's got all these seasoned improvisers.
Of course.
It's Jim Stahl. That's why he was there.
Yeah. Second City, another Second City alumni. Of course he was game. Like, that's why he was there. And it sort of reinforces, the idea that if you're in an ensemble and everyone is supporting you, and then you can elevate anyone. And he was just sort of, he was the first day said he was nervous, or he didn't feel comfortable, or he was just being generous. And we basically said, don't worry about it. Just listen. Just know who the character is, and just, support. And I know that's oversimplified, but it really is true. And a lot of trained actors can't even do that. I worked with a lot of famous trained people that can't fucking listen. So, I mean, I think someone who feels he's in over his head is going to be more tuned in to contributing that way.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I did the pilot of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, shit.
Which wasn't a pilot at the time. It was a 1 hour special.
That's right.
And it just seemed to be sort of this casual thing. We're going to do this thing. We're going to do a 1 hour special for HBO. That's going to be Larry David's return to stand up. Can you show up to this abandoned office building in Century City at 11 p.m. or whatever? It was late at night. We have to wait till the office is closed, bring your own clothes, do your own makeup, and improvise. And I was like, okay.
So that was a straight offer. You didn't have to audition for it.
I think I did audition for it.
Interesting.
I'm sure I auditioned for it.
Because people always ask, like, because my wife and I did a Curb together in like season 4 or 5, and people always ask about the audition process, and you just get a paragraph of like, this has to happen in the scene, and then you go in and you play with Larry. and maybe Jeff is
Oh, we
watching.
didn't even get that. They were just saying, okay, you're, I think I was a set designer or some sort of producer of his comeback to stand up.
Oh, interesting.
And uh, I knew I knew that the character Larry David was from New York. And so I sort of pitched this ridiculous, gritty New York set for him with like fire escapes and graffiti and stuff. I just tried to pick the opposite of Larry David and watch him be uncomfortable. So I think the 1 hour special did so well that they made it into a pilot, or they wanted to make it into a series, and that became the Curb. So Curb You and the Curb series.
So there's two types of guest spots on Curb Your Enthusiasm. There's get offended by Larry, make Larry uncomfortable. And most of us end up in the get offended category. That's certainly where I was. But you're in that rare position of make Larry uncomfortable. But then you also switch in the restaurant stuff. He's coming at you with these ridiculous ideas where he shows up with like the Scientology wardrobe. It's season 3.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. It's such a good season.
And we talked about me coming back as a different character, and Larry's solution was like, yeah, maybe you're just her sister. And I was like, okay, I'll just wear glasses or something. I forgot what the solution was.
That's fantastic.
We came up with some solution.
That's fantastic. That show is apparently not going anywhere, so it could very well happen. I mean, I every time I think they're wrapping up, they come back 3 years later and do another season. So there is still a possibility
to come back as a third character.
I don't see why not.
All right.
I constantly think they're going to wrap it up, and then he's back again. And the thing about bald guys is they don't seem to age; they just like look middle aged. No. They look middle aged for the rest of their life. I was watching that show, and I was like, oh yeah, Ted Danson's gotten older, Michael York's gotten older, Larry David is Larry David. He's just one of those guys, He goes bald when he's like 30, and then will look middle aged until the day he exits this mortal coil. It's the damnedest thing. You've got this great career of a bunch of good series regular work, but these key recurrings on great shows where you're probably not under contract, but they call you and you come in and you crush it, and it's so fun to watch. It's a great thing we got a lot of young actors who listen to this podcast, and I think it's a great way for people to understand the various different ways you can make a living in this business. And one of them is through like this nice steady accumulation of recurring things, because they do pay residuals. And I want to talk about I want to talk about Goldbergs, and I want to talk about Modern Family, actually. So the Goldbergs is an interesting thing for you because you don't necessarily always play characters that have to be Asian.
Correct.
You do, which is neat. Because a lot of the actors of color I have on this show end up playing people who have to be that particular color. The Goldbergs is an exception because you're running a Chinese restaurant, and it becomes this bone of contention that your food is better than Beverly. What was it like working with Wendy McClendon-Covey all those times?
I love her. I mean, and she's from the Groundlings, so there's just sort of like a fun and there's a lightness to that show, and it's so ridiculous because it's through the lens of a person's memory of their childhood, so everything's elevated a little bit. Like that we do in when we recall something, especially anything nostalgic. And I think that's really fun for anyone in comedy to just play a little higher than normal. And I don't know why Wendy has not won fucking 10 Emmys for this.
Oh, I don't understand it either. I think that's widely considered like an atrocity. That, like, with all due respect to Edie Falco, the fact that Edie Falco has comedy Emmys and Wendy McClendon-Covey doesn't is nonsense. I think most of us would agree with that.
She should win every single year.
I don't think that's a hot take.
She's so fucking good.
She's so good, and she's such a hard ass and an alpha, but that only works because she brings vulnerability and tenderness to that part.
Yes. any other person would make that character unlikable.
Yeah.
And the fact that she can balance that is a credit to her skill.
The fact that you're kind of taking her side even in those scenes with you, where like you're just doing your fucking job. You're just trying to serve decent food, and she's like, you're a threat to the family unit, and she will not,
Yes.
and it's just driving her crazy.
I mean, and she's just quietly killing it every season. Everyone knows it.
Everyone knows it.
Anyway,
No.
I don't mean to be mad. Yell at you.
I will take a finite amount of responsibility, but no, it's crazy. I think it just has to do with like over the past 10 years, the Emmys have just been the domain of cable and streaming, and network isn't taken as seriously as it could be. And yeah, there's garbage on network, but there's great work being done, consistently great work being done.
Great work. And people think when Wendy makes it look easy.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Just because she's good
Uh-huh.
doesn't mean it's not easy.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that, Anyway, all right.
No, I couldn't agree more. Around the same time as you're recurring on Goldberg's, you're recurring on Modern Family, and that's a very different comedic tone. Same network, same half-hour single cam format, but as different as those two things can be. Talk a little bit about what it's like doing Modern Family versus doing Goldberg's.
The premise of Modern Family is that it's sort of this documentary, right? So it's supposed to be really grounded and almost even subdued, because we've all seen the talking heads on in documentaries, and it's fun to sort of like I hate saying flex comedic muscle, but don't ever tell anyone that came out of my mouth.
Do you want us to cut it, or I mean, I'd like to keep it. You're on a podcast, Susie. You understand that we're recording this, right?
The whole thing. There's something. I find it very gratifying to play small or dry, rather, and sort of let jokes kind of come in under the radar, make people listen. I like to make audiences work a little bit, but I also like to assume they're at least as smart as I am, so that they will get this read or this joke or this look or this beat. And that's really satisfying for me to do. Also, before I forget, if you do have young actors listening to this podcast, I would like to note that almost every single recurring role that I've had over the past 25 years started as a guest star. None of them were, this is a recurring role.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
They were every single one of them were made recurring after I was a guest star.
You're flexing again, but I'm actually gonna flex on your behalf. You came in there and took this one-off role, and we're like, oh, this should be a thing. This is a great dynamic between this character and Jesse Tyler Ferguson or Wendy, whatever, and it becomes this institution on these shows. You can't overstate there's no such thing as small parts thing. You really can't overstate that.
Yeah.
A small part can turn into a big part. We had a great guest a few weeks back by the name of, the actor Fred Stoller. He's a stand-up character actor. He wrote a great book a few years ago called Maybe We'll Have You Back, which is right. Everyone dies laughing when they hear that title, and it should be mandatory reading for every BFA student. It's such a great insight into this business, but it worked. They had you back repeatedly on these shows.
Yeah, I feel very lucky, because I didn't know enough about recurring. I didn't know there was even contracts for like recurring characters or anything like that. So
sometimes there are, sometimes there aren't.
I always had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always had a great time. So it was always sort of a pleasant surprise when they had me back, or they brought a character back, or they created some arc. Um, yeah,
Look,
it's just. I just finished season 3 of Dead to Me.
oh wow, that's
That
right. Forgot they were doing. I forgot they were doing a season 3. I love that show, and you're great on it.
that character,
Yeah,
that character started off as just the one scene of the neighbor
the
bringing food
casserole.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First off, thrilled to hear they're doing a third season. I really, really like that show. The whole family digs that show. Actually, we probably shouldn't be watching with our children, but we are. And the pandemic set a lot of like our standards out the window, so we started like watching a lot of inappropriate shit with our kids, and we're like, "Fuck it, it's The Hangover."
you're still a great dad. You're still a great
I
dad.
don't know. This isn't the podcast for that. But point of the matter is, it's such a, not to like sound performatively woke or anything, but you've got these great roles for women who are over 40, and it's just so nice to see that. Just to see these people shining in these roles. And I mean, talk about like bringing people back. I mean, they kill off James Marsden and they bring his fucking twin back in season 2. That's how loyal they are to actors over there.
Yeah.
Has that been a fun? Go ahead.
But here's the thing: it's about scripts and arcs and stories and all that stuff, recurring characters. But I have to say, a large part of it is: are you great to work with? Are you nice?
Yeah.
Do you show up prepared?
Mm-hmm.
Do you show up on time?
Mm-hmm.
That means a lot to productions and producers and directors. And even if they kill off your character, if they like you, they will find a way to bring you back. That's how important it is.
Marsden is famously easy to work with. Yeah, no, it really, there's that joke really early on in Spinal Tap. Bear with me. There's a moment early on in Spinal Tap where Rob Reiner is talking about how he discovered the band at a club in Lower Manhattan, and he goes, "I was impressed with their power, their energy, their punctuality." And it's like a throwaway joke, but I took it to heart.
Yes.
Have power, have energy, have punctuality. Fucking be there on time.
Yeah.
Your call time, I don't give a shit if you're going to wait around for a couple of hours. Bring a fucking book. Show up on time. Show up on time.
And in television and movies, time is money. If you know,
fucking money.
So if you show up prepared, you are literally saving them.
You are saving
thousands and thousands of dollars.
Your crew,
of course, they want to work with you again.
Your crew cannot afford to live in Los Angeles proper. They are driving back to the San Gabriel Valley. They are driving back to the South Bay. Get them there on time. Do not make them leave at midnight if they don't have to.
Don't laugh during takes. They
hold
are
your
not
shit
laughing.
together. They do not find you as charmingly funny as you do. A couple bloopers are okay. Don't make a habit of it, by all means. I hate to get political, but I will.
No, but that has to do with but that's part of your work ethic.
Yeah.
Don't fucking break. Do your job. You are at work.
You are at fucking work, and it's a great job. And it can be a very, very fun job, but it is a job. This is a workplace, by all means. Yes. Oh, my God. There's just so much. Let's talk for a moment about whether it's people you've worked with or people you grew up watching. Who were some of your favorite character actors?
I remember, like, the first time I noticed a character, like, when I was young, was, and the story is not going where you think it's going. I was watching Breakfast at Tiffany's.
I hope it isn't going where I think it's going. I'd be shocked if it was going there, actually. It's not going there. Never mind. Carry on.
It's not going there. And I loved Audrey Hepburn, and I loved, sort of this romanticized version of this mystery woman and her life. And then it's called Breakfast at Tiffany's. She finally goes to Tiffany's. And I thought that the guy that worked at Tiffany's was spectacular.
Oh, interesting.
I thought, oh my God, this, the audience is waiting for this moment. Right. For her to interact with the store and the title. And he was just so wonderful and warm, and he didn't judge her. And I thought, who is that guy?
You have
He made the movie for me. John McIver.
okay, okay. Thank you for because you've stumped me. I haven't seen that movie in 20 years, and for reasons that we probably don't have to get into. It's not an easy watch in 2022. Um,
Yes, but that, like, can you imagine? It's based on the novella, the Truman
Capote,
Capote
yeah.
novella. By the way, that is much better than the movie.
Right. Sure. Sure. Sure.
Um,
Okay.
because the Japanese photographer is like one of the main characters.
Oh wow. Okay.
He's like a National Geographic photographer, and he ties the whole story together. No spoilers, but anyway.
Okay.
Um, so then I was like, oh, okay. You can have smaller parts and just be great. Like I still think about that. I feel that what might have even been life changing for me is watching that Tiffany salesperson.
Wow. That
Because like I wanted to be him. That's what I wanted to do.
you want to be the guy who ties everything up at the end with 1 day of work.
Yes, I'll only do the 1 day job. But I thought he brought this depth and warmth, and he gave dignity to the Holly Golightly character.
Yeah.
That I was like, he's dictating how we feel about her.
Oh man, that's
and
lovely.
therefore setting the tone of the movie.
That's lovely.
And I feel like, how can we contribute by the way we react to people? So maybe we're not, I mean, I wasn't thinking about this as a kid, but something about that like resonated.
You understood it intrinsically.
So then
yeah.
I understood it. And then there were people that I would see over and over again that I was like, oh, okay, so you could do multiple roles. So I remember seeing Terry Garr, like she was in Close Encounters, and then I like saw her in Tootsie, and I was like, oh, there's that lady.
Yeah.
And then my family's from New York, so like she knew like who all the Broadway stars were, or like old TV movie stars. So when we would watch like the Blues Brothers, and there was all these cameos, she would explain to me who everyone was. But also how the Muppet Show always had like classic guests.
Sure. Milton Berle was on.
And cameos. Yeah. So like the Muppet Show really shaped my sense of humor, and sort of like I love sort of the backstage stuff, and all the Muppet movies the Muppet movie had all those great cameos.
The Carol Kane.
And my mother would explain, that's Milton Berle. That's Bob Hope. That's whatever it was.
Orson Welles is in the Muppet movie. People forget that Orson Welles is the head of the studio in the Muppet movie, and he kills it. He's great. Carol Kane shows up there.
They could get Sesame Street too.
Mm-hmm.
Sesame Street could get whoever they want.
Mm-hmm.
They can get whoever they want.
I have kids, so I had another resurgence of watching Sesame Street about 10 years ago, and I am consistently struck by the people they can get. But there's one amazing YouTube clip of Terrence Howard doing meeting with Elmo on Sesame Street, and he's so visibly high. And like you understand like why you would want to be high to do Sesame Street,
sure.
But you also have to understand that you probably shouldn't, right? Like that should be a thing. Like you should like fight that instinct. But he is like, you can smell it on him. He is profoundly baked working with Elmo and gets the giggles at weird times. It's a hell of a sight. That's a great answer about Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's a reminder that everything has to serve the story. Your job is to come in and be a storyteller, to serve the story. If you're, take the dead to me rule, you show up as a concerned neighbor to bring food, and that lets us know that Christina Applegate's not doing great. And we need to know that early on. That's an important part of exposition, that the neighbors are concerned about her, but they're also a little nosy. And it's one scene. You were probably wrapped before lunch, but it's crucial to the arc of the show. I want to talk for a moment about Dr. Ken, which it was a straight down the middle multicam sitcom. But I love that character because she's not. It's Dr. Ken's show. He's the lead, but she's not like the put upon sitcom wife. She gets to be funny. She's a little harried, but she's also really, really strong. It struck me how dimensionalized that character was, given that it was just a standard ABC multicam built around a stand-up. And we've seen those before, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And sometimes the woman is just straight manning for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But you got to do a little bit more than that, didn't you?
I did, and I have to credit Ken Jeong because, he was a producer and he was in the writer's room, and it was important to him that he portrayed a family where 2 parents contributed equally to the raising of the kids, and that that the parents had a relationship that was equal and intelligent and loving, and especially because people of color aren't always represented on television multidimensionally.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes we're just sort of like the recurring character or the guest star.
Right.
Or we're there to support a white male character. And so I think it was important to everyone involved on that show that we present this, I mean, dare I say it, normal American family that happened to be, we considered it a multiracial family because Ken's character was Korean and my character was Japanese.
Okay.
And so we got to do a Thanksgiving episode where we're fighting what kind of food we're going to serve.
Nice.
Japanese or Korean, and that my character was also a doctor, and that they were equals and that they were peers, but they also had sort of this, funny, wonderful marriage where normal parent marriage things happen.
Yeah.
For laughs.
It came across really nicely, I thought, and it was just fun to watch the chemistry. I don't think I've ever worked with Ken, but I've met him a couple times. He's just a really good listener, and just, I guess it's his medical background. He just, likes actors and just considers himself very lucky to be in this world. And I think that.
Yeah. And I think when the wife roles, especially in like the 90s and stuff, they were the straight man, but they were also never flawed, which made them, to me, not as funny, right? It was always the husband that was sort of like messing up or apologizing or covering or something. And so I don't know what shift happened, but it was just gratifying for my character on Dr. Ken to also be flawed.
Yeah, no, I watched an episode where she comes home and she's just had a fucking horrible day, and it feels like no one is listening to her, and she just dives into a bottle of wine, and there was just there was a quality of that's exactly what it is. She's not always the voice of reason.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I mean, and in comedy, that's a luxury because it's like the farce. It's like we don't get to fucking slam doors and swear.
Yeah, no, it's really it's exciting to watch. At the same time, though, watch this segue. You're great straight manning. And I'm speaking of your work on Avenue 5, which I just started watching, I will admit. I just got into Avenue 5 recently when I was doing homework.
Okay, season 2's coming at you.
I know. It almost feels like, in some ways it feels like it's on the same continuum as the character from West Wing, just this kind of exasperated woman who has been working with foolish authority men for now centuries and has hit a fucking wall. But like you get all the good straight man jokes. Like you're not, what am I saying by this? Your reactions to the absurdity going around you speak for us. We wish we were that witty and fast that we could react the way you are to Josh Gad, the way you are to Hugh Laurie, in a really satisfying way. Is that a fun show to work on?
It's so fun. That cast is I mean, unmatched.
The cast is
And
bonkers.
Armando Iannucci just sort of collects people. He sort of handpicks people that are very similar. So I worked with Josh before, but I don't think I've worked with anyone. I knew sort of. I worked with Jessica St. Clair before
Right.
on Afternoon Delight, and I knew Kyle Bornheimer. I knew people because they're in this
Well,
business. But
Kyle's one of my guys.
uh,
Kyle and I are in that, like, we're now in that middle-aged comedy guy thing, and
oh
so I've worked with him
yeah,
a
he's
bunch of times, and we've
fantastic.
auditioned against each other, but I see him all the time. Kyle's fantastic.
I love him, and yeah, that group of people just they're the perfect example how everyone is throwing focus. Everyone, like, whether they're trained to do it or they do it instinctively, they just know how to support. They're making jokes better by their reaction. They make your jokes better by their reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's passing the ball. I mean, Hugh Laurie's a great example of how he's from comedy. He's from sketch
He's from the
comedy.
Cambridge
But
Footlights.
people in the United States only know him from House.
No,
They think he's a dramatic actor.
he's an OG comedy
I
guy.
know.
Yeah, no, House was a complete departure for him. House was a total fucking
Yes,
departure. Fry and Laurie, Blackadder, he pops in on.
yeah.
It's
And terrifying in The Night Manager.
Oh, that's right.
Terrifying.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, he's got the goods. He's really fun to watch. You know what? You're talking about ensemble work, and I didn't mean to talk about this, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. We have something in common. You did the show Go On, with Matthew Perry, which was produced by Scott Silveri, and it was the show he did before Speechless.
Yes.
And
tell Scott I said hi.
I absolutely will. But I bring that up because Go On and Speechless, Scott wants to, like, set up these very, very difficult scenarios and then make them comedies. So it's a show about a widower who's trying to get his life back together and his grief management group. And Speechless was a show about a very, very lower middle class family with a child that has special needs, and that's a comedy. Did you Go On had a bonkers ensemble? I mean, you worked with friends. I mean, you worked with Brett Gelman and Seth Morris, and Perry is a terrific straight man. Perry's like one of the
and Sarah Baker.
Oh yeah, Sarah Baker's in there. That's right.
And Julie White,
who you're doing POTUS with. That's
right.
That's right. Yeah. So it's Go On had this I'm kind of surprised that show didn't last longer, but I'm also terribly relieved because then Speechless wouldn't have come along. And at the end of the day, it does have to kind of all be about me. But what was that? How did you find balancing the serious stuff with the comedic moments on that show?
I think they belong together.
That's a lovely answer.
Say
more.
And one of my very early experiences at the Second City was my producer said, we did regular shows, we did tour shows and all that stuff, but once in a while my producer would take on like a benefit gig. And so she would basically say, we're going to send someone and, we won't charge you. But she would pay the actors. That's why I love that. That's why I love Joy Sloan.
Okay.
But what she donated was there was a bunch of grief counselors, and they're going to be counseling people all day. Then they have a 1 hour lunch, and then they have to go back and counsel more people. And so she contributed, she offered to send a cast to entertain them during their 1 hour lunch.
Oh my God.
And so we as a cast went and we're going like, what the fuck are we going to do to grief? What kind of show do we do for grief counselors? And we decided to lean into it.
Okay.
We decided to do a lot of stuff about death.
Yeah.
And they fucking loved it. I mean, I hate to say it, but we killed.
It's inevitable. How are you going to avoid it? No, it's okay. It's fine.
And it's because I think those subjects and humor, not only do they belong together, it is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe as comics, it's a defense mechanism, but I think there's a human need to have that defense mechanism, because laughter isn't just sort of a response. It's a relief.
It's an evolutionary response.
It's like yeah.
You know,
we need it. It's necessary.
I wasn't going to ask about this either, but I feel the need to. You lost your parents when you were kind of young.
Yes. And so the idea of laughter and grief even meant more, you know, it means even more now because I've experienced it.
Interesting.
I think when you haven't experienced grief or tragedy or trauma in some way, you tiptoe around it because, you know, it's the unknown for us. So we want to be sensitive and we want to be respectful. But for the people that have gone through it, we're and I can speak for myself and a lot of people that have experienced grief or trauma. We do seek out people who have who we can joke about it with.
There's a shorthand.
And not have people yes.
There's a shorthand.
And not have people sort of shrink back and feel badly.
That's so good to hear. When my mom passed a few years ago, very suddenly, there were people I could talk to.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, thank you, but there were people I could talk to and make some of the darkest jokes of my career about.
Yes.
And there were people who I could not do that with. And the difference was it was clear cut. It was like, oh, you've been through something fucking awful and you understand that we're in a safe place here and that this is how I'm coping and this is how I'm letting off steam. And the people who had both their parents and grew up in very, very safe suburban environments were just not ready for it at all. And I was alienating people left and right with my grief. It was a hell of a thing.
But you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And when you're grieving, it's like I have no time to console you right now.
Absolutely not.
I just want to make a joke. Please just let me make a joke.
Absolutely. No, it is and they are my jokes to make. And you're with me or you're not. Here's a different kind of grief. Watch this segue.
Okay.
What is the role that got away?
Okay, so when you say that, you mean like what role didn't I get that I wish?
Or what was a role that like kind of turned into a huge thing? I mean, I think we're all at a place in our careers. Most of my guests are my age or older, and we're all kind of like, it was not meant to be. I move on. But it's always interesting for the listener to hear like, oh, blank was almost this significant role. We always get people on the show who were this close to The Office. We get people all the time who were
all of them
this close to The Office, and maybe that's your story as well. But maybe there's some alternate timeline where you were Pam. But what was the role that got away from Suzy?
Very early on in Chicago, they were having auditions for In Living Color.
Wow!
And I was working retail at the time, and I remember again on my lunch, went to audition, and I must have been early because there was no one there, but like I had a great time, and I was like, I thought I was killing it and all that stuff. And then when I left, no one was there yet, and so I left, and I called my agent, and I said, I think I did great. I had a really great time, but there was no one else there. And they said, oh, no, you were the only one. You were the only one they wanted to see. Thank God I didn't know that going in. I didn't get it. But I was like, they came to Chicago.
To see one person and then didn't hire her.
And then
do you remember, was this, so In Living Color, for our younger viewers, Living Color was the first predominantly POC sketch comedy show on TV. I don't think I'm saying.
With Jim Carrey.
And it broke Jim Carrey, and it
and Damon Wayans.
And it reestablished the Wayans dynasty, which was already, I mean, like Keenan and Damon were already working. Sean went to my high school. Sean, the DJ, we were in the same graduating class, high school for the.
And J-Lo was a dancer.
J-Lo was a dancer. That's right. J-Lo was a dancer on the show. But Yeah, Carrie was like the lone white guy on that. Was this the first cast of In Living Color, or was this a
You know
replacement
what? I
cast?
don't remember.
You're better off.
I don't remember.
So you don't remember who they did hire that year?
I don't.
You, you're
Yeah.
so well balanced. You're so like living in the moment. It's inspiring. It's really I strive to emulate that. Good for you. Suzy Nakamura, I cannot thank you enough for taking the time on this your day off.
I mean, it was a pleasure. I love talking to someone that knows what I'm talking about.
That's the hope. That's what we're trying to do over here. I think people realize that it's I'm an enthusiastic host at least.
Yeah.
So Avenue Five's coming, Dead to Me's coming, POTUS is on Broadway right now.
Yep.
Hopefully it will still be on Broadway when this drops. Theater's tough. Theater's a tough business.
Theater's tough.
Has COVID?
But if it all goes well, we close August 14th. So come to New York.
Fantastic. Has COVID fucked you guys up at all? Did you guys miss any shows or understudies coming in?
Not yet. Knock on wood.
That's amazing though, because I think it has to do with singing, man. The musicals get fucked up constantly. The musicals are constantly calling in understudies.
No, John. We got COVID in the rehearsal process.
Oh, interesting. So you guys are all kind of footloose and fancy free now. Excellent.
Yeah, we all got like at least 90 days. Oh. It tore through the rehearsal process.
Oh, interesting.
I shouldn't say tore through. It very early on. It took a couple of us down.
Oh man. All right. Well, stay safe and be well, and please send my regards to New York. Literally, give my regards to Broadway. How about that?
I will.
And thank you so much, Suzy Nakamura.
For having me. It was fun.
And that is an episode wrap on the great Suzy Nakamura. You have so many chances to see Suzy in the coming weeks. Avenue 5 returns to HBO, Dead to Me returns to Netflix, and POTUS is running on Broadway until August 14th. And look, if you find yourself in New York, go to the half-price ticket booth. They always have tickets for the straight plays. The musicals are a tougher call, but the straight plays, there are always tickets and good seats too. Go see a play. Go support some live theater, particularly in these rather dicey economic times.